It is said that Camilla has just been moved out of the castle, and the story behind it intrigues us all.
The ambulance left Buckingham Palace in silence. No public announcement, no emergency briefing, no carefully crafted palace statement explaining what had happened behind those famous walls. There were only flashing lights cutting through the darkness as King Charles III was quietly transported away from the palace he had spent a lifetime preparing to lead. Yet according to royal commentators and insiders who have followed the monarchy's internal dynamics for decades, the medical emergency itself may not have been the most consequential event of that night. Because while attention focused on the king's condition, something else was reportedly unfolding behind closed doors. Something that, if the growing number of reports and observations from royal watchers are even partially accurate, could help explain why conversations about the future of the monarchy have suddenly intensified with unusual urgency. And at the center of those conversations stands Catherine, Princess of Wales. Now ask yourself a simple question. When a monarch is confronted with the reality of illness, when questions about succession become impossible to ignore, and when the future of an institution that has survived for centuries suddenly feels far less distant than anyone expected, who becomes the person that king trusts most? According to numerous royal commentators, that question may already have an answer. There are moments in royal history when transitions happen gradually, almost invisibly, over the course of years. Then there are moments when the direction of the future becomes clear long before any formal transfer of power takes place. Many observers now believe the British monarchy could be approaching exactly such a moment. King Charles III has faced his health challenges with remarkable determination. Since announcing his cancer diagnosis, he has continued carrying out public engagements, meeting world leaders, supporting charitable initiatives, and fulfilling the constitutional responsibilities expected of a reigning monarch. To the public, he has projected resilience, discipline, and duty. Yet royal journalists with long-standing palace contacts have repeatedly suggested that the private reality has often been far more demanding than the public has been allowed to see. And that distinction matters, because the king who appears at official engagements is not necessarily the same king who spends long evenings reflecting on the future of the institution he inherited. Behind the ceremony, behind the tradition, and behind the carefully managed public image is a man who understands better than anyone that monarchies are ultimately judged not only by how they govern the present, but by how successfully they prepare for what comes next. So what happens when that future suddenly feels much closer than expected? According to sources frequently cited by royal commentators, King Charles III has become increasingly focused on legacy. Not simply personal legacy, but institutional legacy. The kind of legacy measured decades from now when historians look back and ask whether the monarchy successfully navigated one of the most complicated periods in its modern history. And this is where the story takes a fascinating turn. Because the individual reportedly receiving an extraordinary degree of confidence and trust from the king is not someone who was born into royal privilege. She did not grow up inside palace walls. She was not raised expecting to become one of the most influential figures in the monarchy. It is Catherine, Princess of Wales. Over the past decade, Catherine has transformed from a young woman subjected to relentless public scrutiny into arguably the most admired and trusted member of the royal family. Through family crises, institutional challenges, health struggles, and periods of intense media attention, she has built a reputation defined by composure, discipline, and a remarkable ability to connect with people from every walk of life. But what if her importance to the monarchy now extends far beyond public popularity? What if the trust being placed in Catherine behind palace walls is significantly greater than most people realize? That possibility has become the focus of growing speculation among royal observers, particularly as reports continue to emerge suggesting that King Charles III has been taking deliberate steps to ensure that the next chapter of the monarchy reflects the values and priorities he believes are essential for its survival. And if those reports are accurate, then the implications are enormous. Because decisions about trust inside a royal household are never simply personal decisions. They are decisions about influence. They are decisions about authority. They are decisions about who will shape the institution when moments of uncertainty arrive. Yet every major shift inside a powerful institution creates winners and losers. And according to commentators who have been carefully tracking developments within royal circles, Not everyone has welcomed the direction in which this apparent shift has been moving. Some observers believe tensions have been quietly building beneath the polished surface of royal life. Others suggest that competing visions for the monarchy's future have become increasingly difficult to ignore. Whatever the reality may be, one thing is becoming impossible to overlook. The conversation surrounding Catherine, Princess of Wales, is no longer simply about popularity. It is about influence. It is about trust. And it may ultimately be about the future of the crown itself. So what exactly has King Charles III been doing behind the scenes? Why do so many royal commentators believe Catherine's role is changing in ways the public has not yet fully understood? And how did Prince William reportedly respond when resistance to that changing reality began to emerge? The answers, according to those following the story most closely, reveal a far more dramatic picture than most people realize. And this is only the beginning. King Charles III did not arrive at this moment suddenly. The signs have been building for far longer than most people realized, hidden behind the reassuring images released by palace officials, concealed beneath carefully choreographed public appearances, and softened by the extraordinary discipline that has defined so much of the king's public life. To the outside world, the monarchy continued to project stability. The ceremonies continued, the engagements continued, the familiar rhythm of royal life continued. But according to royal commentators who have spent decades studying the institution, something much more significant was quietly unfolding behind palace walls. Because there comes a point in every reign when the future stops being an abstract discussion and starts becoming an immediate concern. For King Charles III, many observers believe that moment may have arrived sooner than anyone expected. Since revealing his cancer diagnosis, the king has repeatedly demonstrated a determination that has earned widespread admiration across Britain and beyond. Even during periods when many public figures might have stepped away from their responsibilities, King Charles continued carrying out official duties, meeting visitors, attending events, and projecting the image of a monarch fully committed to service. Yet those closest to the institution understood something important. Determination and reality are not always the same thing. Royal correspondents with long-established palace contacts have frequently pointed to subtle indicators that rarely make newspaper headlines, but often reveal far more than official statements ever could. Adjustments to schedules, reduced workloads, engagements carefully structured to conserve energy, longer recovery periods between appearances. None of these developments were alarming on their own, but together they painted a picture that many royal observers found difficult to ignore. And that picture led to a question that became increasingly difficult to avoid. What happens when a king who has spent his entire life preparing for leadership begins thinking not only about the responsibilities of the present, but about the future he will eventually leave behind? According to commentators familiar with discussions taking place around the monarchy, that question appears to have become a defining concern for King Charles III in recent months. Not because succession itself is uncertain. The constitutional path is perfectly clear. Prince William remains the heir to the throne, and the mechanisms governing royal succession have existed for generations. But succession and legacy are not the same thing. One determines who inherits the crown. The other determines what kind of institution they inherit. And it is that distinction that many royal observers believe has become increasingly important to the king. Because when historians eventually evaluate King Charles III's reign, they will not simply examine the ceremonies, speeches, or official engagements. They will ask a larger question. Did he successfully prepare the monarchy for the future? Sources frequently cited by royal commentators suggest that the king has spent considerable time reflecting on exactly that challenge. Reports describe private discussions focused not merely on continuity, but on character. Not merely on titles, but on values. Not merely on who occupies positions of authority, but on who can be trusted to protect the institution during moments of uncertainty. And according to those same observers, one name has appeared repeatedly in those conversations: Catherine, Princess of Wales. What makes Catherine's position remarkable is not simply her popularity, although her public standing remains exceptionally strong. What has reportedly impressed many within royal circles is something far less visible: consistency. For more than a decade, Catherine has operated under extraordinary pressure. Every appearance has been scrutinized. Every decision has been analyzed. Every challenge has unfolded beneath an international spotlight that rarely allows mistakes to go unnoticed. Yet throughout family controversies, institutional difficulties, personal health challenges, and periods of intense public attention, she has maintained a reputation for discipline, discretion, and stability. Those qualities matter, perhaps more than most people realize, because inside institutions that have survived for centuries, trust is rarely built through dramatic gestures. It is built through years of observation, years of reliability, years of proving that when pressure arrives, principles remain intact. According to royal commentators, that is precisely what Catherine has spent years demonstrating. And King Charles III appears to have noticed. Observers close to royal affairs increasingly describe a relationship that extends beyond formal family affection. They describe a king who has watched his daughter-in-law navigate some of the most challenging periods in modern royal history and gradually developed an extraordinary level of confidence in her judgment, her character, and her understanding of service. That confidence, commentators suggest, may now carry implications far beyond personal trust. Because trust inside a royal household is never simply emotional. It becomes influence, it becomes access, it becomes responsibility, and eventually, it becomes power. The moment that kind of trust begins flowing visibly toward one individual, everyone else inside the institution notices. And that is where the story becomes truly fascinating. Because while Catherine's standing appears to have grown steadily stronger, reports from royal observers suggest that not everyone has viewed that development with equal enthusiasm. Every institution contains competing interests. Every transition creates uncertainty. And every shift in influence inevitably produces individuals who feel that their own position is becoming less secure. The British monarchy is no exception, which raises an important question. As King Charles III reportedly placed greater confidence in Catherine, Princess of Wales, who inside the palace was watching that shift unfold with increasing concern, who saw the direction of the future becoming clearer. And what happened when some people realized that the balance of influence inside the royal household might be moving in ways they could neither predict nor control? According to royal commentators following this story closely, the answers to those questions reveal the first signs of a growing tension that would soon become impossible to ignore. And that tension, they say, was only just beginning. Power rarely announces itself when it begins to move. There are no alarms, no public declarations, no dramatic ceremonies marking the precise moment when influence starts flowing away from one group and toward another. Instead, the shift usually begins in ways that appear almost insignificant to outsiders, visible only to the people living inside the institution itself. A private meeting here, a trusted conversation there, a decision about who is consulted and who is not. Small changes that mean very little individually, but become impossible to ignore when viewed together. And according to royal commentators who have been following developments inside the monarchy closely, that is exactly what appears to have been happening behind palace walls. Because while the public continued to focus on King Charles III's health and official engagements, those operating within royal circles reportedly began noticing something else entirely. They began noticing that the gravitational center of the monarchy appeared to be shifting. Not abruptly, not dramatically, but steadily. Increasingly, observers noted that discussions about the future of the institution seemed to revolve around Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales. More attention was being directed toward their initiatives. More interest was being shown in their long-term priorities. More questions were being asked about how they envisioned the monarchy evolving over the coming decades. For many royal watchers, these developments were hardly surprising. After all, William is the heir to the throne. Catherine is the future queen. Their importance has never been in doubt. What was surprising, however, was the growing perception that the future was no longer being discussed as a distant concept. It was being discussed as something much closer, something much more immediate. And that distinction changed everything. Because whenever the future begins arriving faster than expected, people start paying closer attention to where influence is flowing in the present. Royal historians often point out that some of the most consequential moments in monarchical history occur long before a crown changes hands. They occur when key figures inside the institution begin adjusting their loyalties, their expectations, and their calculations based on where they believe authority is ultimately heading. The British monarchy has experienced this pattern many times before. And according to commentators studying the current situation, there are signs that it may be happening once again. Reports emerging from royal circles have increasingly described Prince William as taking a more active role in discussions concerning the monarchy's long-term direction. Not in a way that challenges King Charles III authority, but in a way that reflects the growing responsibilities of an heir preparing for an increasingly important future role. At the same time, Catherine's influence appears to have expanded beyond the traditional expectations associated with her position. Observers frequently describe her not simply as a supportive royal figure, but as someone deeply engaged with the strategic and charitable priorities that will shape the institution's public identity for years to come. And that combination has attracted attention, a great deal of attention, because the closer royal commentators looked, the more they began noticing something remarkable. William and Catherine were no longer being viewed merely as future leaders. They were increasingly being viewed as present leaders, not officially, not constitutionally, but practically. And inside a complex institution like the monarchy, practical influence often matters just as much as formal authority. Now imagine what that reality might look like from the perspective of individuals who had spent years operating under a different set of assumptions. Imagine believing that the future would unfold one way, only to discover that events may be moving in an entirely different direction. Imagine watching certain voices gain influence while others become less central to important conversations. Imagine realizing that relationships, alliances, and expectations that once seemed permanent might not be nearly as secure as they appeared. History suggests that such moments rarely pass without tension. And according to those following the story most closely, tension is exactly what began to emerge. Not openly, not publicly, but quietly, subtly, behind closed doors. Royal correspondents familiar with palace dynamics have repeatedly emphasized that institutions of this size and complexity inevitably contain competing perspectives, different personalities, different priorities, different visions for the future. Most of the time, those differences remain manageable, but periods of transition have a way of magnifying them, because transition creates uncertainty, and uncertainty creates anxiety. The result, according to royal observers, was an atmosphere that gradually became more complicated than the public realized. Questions that once seemed settled suddenly became subjects of discussion. Assumptions that had guided internal expectations for years appeared less certain. And all the while, the growing confidence that King Charles III reportedly placed in William and Catherine continued attracting attention from everyone watching the future of the monarchy take shape. The crucial point, however, is this. When influence shifts, people respond. Some adapt, some accept, and some resist. That pattern is not unique to royal families. It exists in governments, corporations, and institutions of every kind. The difference is that within a monarchy, those reactions often unfold far from public view, hidden behind traditions, ceremonies, and carefully maintained appearances. Which is precisely why royal commentators became increasingly interested in what they were hearing from sources close to palace circles. Because the reports suggested that resistance to this evolving reality was beginning to take recognizable form. Not necessarily through dramatic confrontations, not through public disagreements, but through quieter efforts to shape perceptions, influence conversations, and challenge the direction in which the institution appeared to be moving. For months, these signs remained little more than fragments. A comment here, a concern there, an unusual disagreement, a noticeable shift in behavior. Nothing conclusive on its own. Yet taken together, they painted a picture that many observers found increasingly difficult to dismiss. A picture of a monarchy entering a period of genuine internal adjustment. A picture of a future that was arriving faster than expected. And a picture of certain individuals struggling to come to terms with what that future might mean for them personally. What happened next, according to those closest to the story, transformed those quiet tensions into something far more significant. Because there comes a moment when uncertainty gives way to clarity. A moment when private concerns become impossible to hide. A moment when the direction of the future becomes visible to everyone. And according to royal commentators, King Charles III was about to make his intentions far clearer than many people expected. The most significant moments in royal history are rarely the ones that happen in public. They are not always the grand coronations broadcast around the world, the balcony appearances watched by millions, or the state ceremonies carefully preserved in history books. More often, the moments that ultimately reshape the monarchy begin behind closed doors, inside private conversations where only a handful of people understand what is truly being decided. And according to royal commentators who have spent months following the growing reports emerging from palace circles, King Charles III may have recently reached exactly such a moment. Because after months of speculation, months of observing subtle changes inside the institution, and months of hearing consistent reports about the growing confidence King Charles III was placing in Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, observers began noticing something that appeared far more deliberate than anything that had come before. The signals were becoming impossible to miss. Royal correspondents increasingly described a monarch who seemed determined to eliminate uncertainty wherever possible. Not uncertainty about succession, because the constitutional framework surrounding Prince William has never been in question, but uncertainty about direction. Uncertainty about priorities. Uncertainty about who would be entrusted with helping guide the monarchy through the challenges waiting beyond the horizon. And when a reigning monarch begins removing uncertainty, an important question naturally follows. Who benefits from that clarity? According to commentators who study the internal dynamics of the British royal family, the answer appeared increasingly consistent. The names surfacing repeatedly in discussions about the future were Prince William, the Prince of Wales, and Catherine, Princess of Wales. Whether the subject involved charitable initiatives, long-term public engagement strategies, youth-focused programs, or the broader question of how the monarchy should evolve for a changing generation, royal observers noted that Prince William and Kate Middleton seemed to be occupying a larger and larger share of the conversation. That development may sound ordinary at first glance. After all, Prince William is the heir to the throne, and Catherine, Princess of Wales, is the future queen. Yet seasoned royal historians were quick to point out that timing matters. Influence is not merely about position. Influence is about when authority begins to shift in practical terms, and several observers believe they were witnessing exactly that process unfold in real time. What makes this particularly fascinating is that King Charles III has always been known as a deeply thoughtful figure, someone who spent decades preparing for responsibilities that many people assumed would never fully arrive. Throughout those decades, King Charles III developed strong views about service, environmental stewardship, charitable work, and the role the monarchy should play in modern society. The question facing the king now, according to commentators familiar with royal affairs, appears to be whether those priorities will survive beyond his reign. And if you were King Charles III, facing that question honestly, who would you trust to carry those values forward? That question reportedly became increasingly important as the months progressed, and according to royal observers, the answer appeared to become increasingly clear. Catherine, Princess of Wales, was no longer being viewed simply as a respected member of the royal family. Catherine, Princess of Wales, was increasingly being viewed as one of the institution's most valuable assets, a figure capable of connecting traditional royal values with a modern public that expects authenticity, competence, and genuine service. Not everyone, however, was necessarily comfortable watching that reality take shape. Every institution contains individuals who benefit from existing arrangements. Every institution develops internal expectations about influence, access, and standing. When those expectations begin changing, even subtly, tensions can emerge beneath the surface long before they become visible to outsiders. Royal commentators have repeatedly cautioned that palace politics are often impossible to verify with complete certainty. Nevertheless, many observers noted a growing pattern. The more attention focused on Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, the more speculation emerged regarding competing visions for the monarchy's future. Questions that once existed only among dedicated royal watchers began reaching broader audiences. Who would shape the next era? Which voices would carry the greatest weight? And perhaps most importantly, whose influence was growing while someone else's influence was diminishing? Those questions became increasingly difficult to ignore because history provides a remarkably consistent lesson. Periods of transition rarely create conflict because people disagree about the destination. More often, conflict emerges because people disagree about who gets to help determine the route. According to commentators following the story most closely, That may be exactly what was beginning to happen inside royal circles. Reports suggested that as Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, assumed greater visibility and responsibility, concerns were quietly developing among individuals who viewed the changing balance of influence with growing unease. Whether those concerns were justified is almost beside the point. What matters is that perception often drives behavior. And perception, according to royal observers, was changing rapidly. By this stage, King Charles III reportedly appeared determined to leave as little ambiguity as possible regarding his confidence in the next generation. Prince William increasingly appeared to be preparing for responsibilities that would once have seemed years away. Catherine, Princess of Wales, appeared more central than ever to conversations about the monarchy's future. And across royal circles, commentators were beginning to describe the situation using a phrase that had become increasingly common: a transition before the transition. But if that description was accurate, then a much bigger question remained unanswered. How would those who felt threatened by this emerging reality respond when it became clear that the momentum was no longer moving in their direction? Because according to several royal commentators, the next phase of the story was not defined by growing confidence inside the future leadership of the monarchy. It was defined by growing anxiety among those who feared they were being left behind. And that anxiety, according to observers watching events unfold, was about to produce consequences that nobody could ignore. The most interesting part of the story is not what may be happening today. The most interesting part is what happens next. Because if royal commentators are correct, and if the gradual shift in influence that observers have been tracking for months continues, moving in the same direction, then the British monarchy may be approaching one of the most important transitional periods of the modern era. Not a constitutional crisis, not a dramatic public confrontation, something potentially far more significant than that. A quiet transformation that could determine how the institution functions for an entire generation. And at the center of that transformation stand three figures whose futures have become increasingly intertwined: King Charles III, Prince William, the Prince of Wales, and Catherine, Princess of Wales. What makes this moment so fascinating is that each of those individuals represents a different chapter of the monarchy's story. King Charles III represents continuity, tradition, and a lifetime spent preparing for responsibilities that finally arrived after decades of waiting. Prince William, the future king, represents the bridge between the institution's historic foundations and the expectations of a rapidly changing world. And Catherine, Princess of Wales, represents something that many royal observers believe has become increasingly valuable in modern public life: trust. That combination is precisely why commentators have become so focused on the months ahead. Because transitions are rarely tested when everything is calm. Transitions are tested when pressure arrives. And if there is one lesson that royal history teaches repeatedly, it is that every generation eventually faces moments that reveal whether preparation was sufficient. So let me ask you a question. If Prince William were required to assume significantly greater responsibilities sooner than expected, do you believe Prince William is already prepared for that challenge? And perhaps even more importantly, do you believe Catherine, Princess of Wales, has already become one of the monarchy's most important sources of stability without many people fully realizing it? Those questions have moved from theoretical discussions among royal historians to genuine subjects of debate among commentators following the royal family closely. Part of the reason for that debate is the extraordinary evolution of Catherine, Princess of Wales, over the past decade. When Kate Middleton first entered the royal spotlight, public attention focused largely on appearances, fashion, and the highly visible aspects of royal life. Today, however, discussions surrounding Catherine, Princess of Wales, increasingly center on leadership, judgment, influence, and long-term institutional value. That is a remarkable transformation, and it is one that did not happen overnight. According to royal observers, the significance of that transformation extends beyond Catherine, Princess of Wales herself. It reflects a broader shift in how the monarchy may be positioning itself for the future. Rather than relying solely on tradition to maintain public support, the institution appears increasingly focused on figures who can build authentic connections with modern audiences while still respecting the responsibilities that come with royal service. And that brings us back to King Charles III. Because if the reports discussed throughout the story contain even a measure of truth, then King Charles III may already be engaged in one of the most consequential tasks of any monarch's reign. Not governing the present, but preparing the future. History tends to remember monarchs for highly visible moments, coronations, jubilees, historic speeches. Yet historians often argue that a ruler's greatest decisions are the ones that shape events long after the headlines disappear. Decisions about people, decisions about trust, decisions about which values deserve to survive beyond an individual's time and power. Could that be what we are witnessing now? Could the growing confidence reportedly being placed in Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, reflect a deliberate effort by King Charles III to ensure that the monarchy enters its next chapter with clarity rather than confusion? The answer remains uncertain. What is certain, however, is that royal commentators are paying closer attention than ever before. Because whenever conversations about influence, succession, trust, and institutional continuity begin converging at the same time, experienced observers understand that something important may be developing beneath the surface. And that development may only become more visible as time moves forward. The other fascinating element of this story involves perception. Institutions survive not only because of what happens internally, but because of how those developments are understood by the public. In that regard, Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, appear to occupy an increasingly strong position. Polling, public appearances, charitable initiatives, and international interest have consistently reinforced the perception that Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, remain among the monarchy's most effective public ambassadors. That perception matters, because influence inside the palace and confidence outside the palace often reinforce one another, creating momentum that becomes increasingly difficult to ignore. Which raises one final question for you. When historians eventually write about this period in royal history, will they describe it as the moment when Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, quietly emerged as the defining figures of the monarchy's future? Or will entirely different developments reshape the story before that transition is complete? Only time will provide the answer. What we do know is that the coming years are likely to be among the most closely watched in modern royal history. King Charles III continues carrying out the responsibilities of the crown with determination and resilience. Prince William continues preparing for the immense responsibilities that accompany the throne. Catherine, Princess of Wales, continues strengthening a reputation that many commentators believe has become one of the institution's greatest assets. And somewhere within that evolving story lies the answer to the question that has driven this entire discussion from the beginning. Who will shape the next era of the British monarchy? As always, the most revealing chapters have not yet been written. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the future of the royal family, share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, are already becoming the central figures of the monarchy's next chapter, or do you think the story will take a different direction entirely? We would genuinely love to hear your perspective, because some of the best discussions always happen right here in this community. And if you enjoy thoughtful royal analysis, in-depth palace stories, and carefully researched discussions about the future of the British monarchy, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss our next video. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next royal story.